And then when you're laying out content on a page, you also need to keep a few other things in mind. You need to put the important information above the fold. That's an old newspaper term. People don't scroll. Or they may scroll a little bit, but chances are they're not going to scroll very much. So anything that you want them to see, you need to put at the top half of the page. And then each page needs to have a couple of key elements, an identifier, which is usually your logo, contact information or a link to contact information, and a call to action. You want them to place an order, register for a newsletter, watch a video, request a demo. You want your website to work for you. So on each page, you need to give them the ability to take action. There are a few extra considerations for e-commerce sites. E-commerce marketers need to design and organize their stores a little bit differently. They definitely need to promote saleable items and lead customers to promotional areas. They need to organize their products in very discernible categories. They need to offer lots of help, and they are more required to have things like live chat or email or lots of different ways that customers can get help. They need to have quick and easy access to account information. They need to present, a nice shopping cart, and they also need to definitely have an area with product reviews, which not all of their sites have to have. But e-commerce sites also have lots of unique opportunities because they get lots of information about their customers when their customers order. So they can have an advantage by making it so when a customer comes to, the home page, the website can present products that they may be interested in based on previous purchases. They also have the ability to do some geo-targeting to offer products to different shoppers based on where they're physically located. So if they implement some of these opportunities, not only does it increase customer service, but it also will most definitely increase the potential for greater sales. And with that, let's move on to design. The design of your site, at the outset is kind of the overall theme, the overall look and feel of your site. And we kind of discussed this a little bit earlier, but, it needs to match your brand. Is your brand, does it need to be professional or arty or retro, clean lines, a little bit messier of a look. Those things will be dictated by your products and your brand. And then graphics also play a really big part. They grab readers' attention and they can enhance your content. And especially if you're an e-commerce site, you definitely need to show your products, right? But even if you're not an e-commerce site, it's a really good idea to show your product. And or, if you're a service, clearly if you're Starbucks, you're going to show the new, pumpkin spice latte for fall or whatever. But say you're like a daycare or something, you can then, you're going to show pictures of kids playing on playground equipment or doing art or something. You need to find some kind of visual representation of your product. Because it's really good for breaking up text and to personalize, I guess, your overall company. And graphics can also be used to help visualize data. Certainly, bar graphs and things always help when you're disseminating data. Use of graphics also enhance search engine optimization, and again, we'll be discussing more of that in a couple weeks, but they provide lots of opportunity to help boost your natural search. But then I guess what I would caution is use smartly. Pictures and animations and all those things are really fun, but they can get really crazy and busy fast. Think about that first site that we looked at today. Clearly that was over the top, but he probably started out with one or two things and then just kept going and didn't know when to edit. So know when to stop. So we've gone over, the big picture things you need to think about when you're planning a website, and we've discussed the things that need to go on your website, the navigation and the content and the design. Now we need to kind of talk about how we take all that information, or how companies usually take that information and turn it into an actual website. Like, what's the process? Well, again, highlighting kind of from the beginning of this discussion, you first need to outline, the purpose of your site. Why are you building the site, or why are you, maybe revamping the site? Who's your audience? What do you want to say? How do you want to group information?
What things are you going to track, right? All those components are critical. And lots of times what people do is they go through a discovery document, and they almost have lots of people who are kind of part of the decision-making team to fill in forms with that information as like a starting place or a starting block. And I've shown a screenshot of one here, but I will attach one that one agency in town uses with their clients. So you can kind of get an idea of how you start identifying some of the information you want to have on your site. Then companies usually lay out their content, and not all of their content, but their main messages. And one of the ways they keep themselves organized in this process is to use a content matrix. So again, on this slide, I've shown a few pictures of a content matrix. It's actually one that I used for a website redesign for, I think it was about a 40-page site it ended up being. And essentially it's a spreadsheet that talks about the content on your site. So the first three things on the left, global, secondary, and tertiary, those are where that information is going to be placed on the navigation scheme. Is it going to be on the global menu, like as shown on every page? Is it going to be part of a secondary menu or like a third tertiary menu, right? So, and then you can see then the titles of the page, home and Unicrew solution. The name of the company was called Unicrew. So those first three are kind of together, and you just want to put, where the title of the page lands on the navigation scheme, right? And then you want to put on your main content points, right? So what are the 2 or 3 main messages you want to have on this page, right? What are the 2 or 3 main points you need to get across on this page? The point is that, essentially then you could give it maybe to a writer, to take those 2 or 3 main points and expand on it, or maybe someone internally to expand on the content on the page. And then, to the right of that is visuals and callouts. So these are the images you want on this page. These are the images that would, be appropriate for this page. If it's a page talking about a specific product, maybe you want a product shot. Maybe you want to have a call out about a newsletter or a white paper they can download, or a link to maybe a different part of the website. Anything you want to call out. These call-outs are really good places to enhance any short-term goals, right? We've been talking about goals. So come to our event, for example. And then your call to action. So every single page should have a call to action. Sign up for something. Request a demo. Take me to more information. You want users to take an action on every site because that means they are getting involved with the site. So this is where you lay out where that call to action is. And then the SEO keywords. So again, I know we haven't talked as much about SEO, but these are the words that you hope would help people find this page if they were searching. So then the writer or whoever's going to be doing the writing for the page can take those SEO keywords and incorporate it into the overall content. So this is a great tool to, you can lay it out. It's almost like an outline, right? It's an outline of your site in Excel form, but you can use it to make sure that you've hit all the main points you want to hit, that you've incorporated all of your keywords, that you have appropriate messaging, and that the story or the organization is going to make sense. Once the project gets going, this document serves as a touch point to make sure you're not straying too far off of what you originally intended, and it keeps all involved parties on the same page. So the next slide shows you a web page of the Ingenico group. So if I were to reverse engineer, the content matrix, if I were to maybe look at this page and think about how someone from the Ingenico group filled out that particular spreadsheet, I could say, okay, well this is, you can tell by the little breadcrumb trail that we are in a secondary page or a tertiary page, so we're under solutions and in-store, so it's a secondary page. There is not a lot of content, so the main message is pretty easy to flush out. It's that Ingenico designs really comprehensive transaction management solutions. It has a picture of someone buying something from a store, which makes sense. Ingenico sells those little, when you swipe your card at the cash register on the little machine, they provide those machines. That's what they do. So the picture, the graphic is quite appropriate with what they're selling. They have a couple of big call-outs. They have the press releases, and they have some other in-store things solutions that you can see, the Easy Cash, the transaction management, highlighting the different features of their product. And then they have at least one call to action. On the bottom they have find out more. So you can see how someone may have taken an outline like the one we saw and turned it into what we see on the page. From a design standpoint, again, after you make decisions internally, you want to talk with your design team about how you want the layout to be. Thematically, what goes best, right? If you're a medical products company, you're going to want clean, white, styles. If you are a coffee house, maybe something in browns, and it can be a little more funky. So first of all, you need to decide the overall look and feel of what you want the website to be. But then functionally, do you want to have a big graphic with call-outs underneath? Do you want columns of information? In which layout can you best tell your story? And of course, then the design team will also take into account how many layers of menus you have and things like that. And what they come back with is something called a wireframe, which is essentially what you see on the next screen. It's kind of a black and white mock-up of what the pages will look like. So there's one example of a fairly plain website, and then the next one after that actually shows you the wireframe for the CNN website, which looks kind of different, but you can see how, if it's just the blocks of where graphics should be and where text should be, it's easy to move things around before you do the actual coding, right? So this is usually done, in a graphics design site versus coding, and so you figure it all out so that by the time you get a coder involved, you don't have to do as many rewrites, because it's a lot easier to change things in a graphics program than it is once you start getting code involved.
So then one final thought for the day. Once you have your site done, it's really important to test. A lot of people don't do this because they don't feel like they have the manpower or the capability. But really, the smallest things can mess up your site's interaction with a potential customer, which means you will lose business. I worked for this company that created software for use in the construction industry. And so we built this great site, or at least we thought we did, and luckily I had a few friends who were general contractors who I could come in and just put them in front of the website and watch them click around. And we learned a couple things. One, our buttons were too small. We had all these little buttons to click on. And as it turns out, all these contractors, and a lot of the contractors are men in their late 40s who don't like wearing their reading glasses. And so they couldn't see things well. They couldn't read things well because we needed to make our buttons bigger. And also we had some calls of action that were in red because we thought red is a bold color, it'll stand out and get everybody's attention. And then we learned that a really large percentage of men are colorblind to the color red. So as that was going to be the large percentage of people using our site, completely made our call to action buttons ineffective. So it's very important to test your site.
From a purely technological perspective, you should test it on various browsers and various versions of various browsers. You should have people internally play with it and test it out, and then you should have potential users, right? Potential people who would be using your site or outsiders come in and test. And if you are so inclined, there's software you can use where it kind of tracks the eyeball movements and the clicks of people who are looking at your site, and then you can do analysis on improvements that could be made to the layout and design and content. And that's all we have today. If you have questions about this or anything else, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks.